Welcome to Men, Sex, and Tantra.
Discover what your parents, porn, and religion never taught you about being a man and having extraordinary sex. Get ready to have your mind blown and your world rocked. All right, we are back, Tanja and Ean back, and it's Men, Sex, and Tantra. And we had such a great time talking about your asses last episode that now we want to talk about your eyeballs. And the whole idea, men are visual. What is that even like? What does that actually mean? And what are the ramifications of that? Because I'm here to say, first of all, we're all visual, hence our eyes are actually part of our brain. They're the outside extension. They're not separate from our brain. They're actually direct access to our brain. We are all freaking visual. But let's jump in to see, Ian, what you have to say about this whole thing, because there's something that was really interesting that we talked about. So just roll eyeballs.
Yeah. So the beautiful thread being when you shared your story about the guy that said, "Wow, I'm not into fat women."
Wow, she's fat, and yeah, right, yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this idea in my own experience. Oh, I'm such a visual person. I'm just like, I love seeing, I love looking. I've always been a person like, lights on. I gotta have the lights on. No darkness, please. I want to see everything. And how this really tied into the last episode is around, like we talked about with the food or with the sexuality, the preference, the story, is the eyes kind of create a similar story of, I like looking at this. I like looking at this. And in the realm of men, especially, we're grown up, as boys, we watch these movies with the heroes, or getting older, like James Bond and all the, quote unquote gorgeous women, and they need to look a certain way in movies and shows and everything. There's, and even in video games, there's like a certain shape to women, and we are so indoctrinated, programmed as men to what we should prefer to see.
Yeah.
Not that this holds for everyone, but I would say for a large percentage of men, we are programmed, we are indoctrinated. This is what attractive is. This is not what attractive is.
Yeah. Well, we all are. Women are too. Like, we're always failing. In our worlds, we're always failing at what the perfect ideal woman is supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. According to the media, right? According to porn, according to the media. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll take it into my own personal journey once again with this is, I'm trying to be on this road that I feel connects to Tantra, deeper into truth, just like, I shared in the last episode of, am I attracted to men? Trying that out. Now I have that same curiosity of, am I attracted to women outside of the program in my mind?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can tell in my sexuality and my sensuality, I'm watching how much of it depends on what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And that screams problematic to me.
Yeah.
Because it's a story. It's an illusion. It's not in touch with my body. Here's the other part, is I've been with really attractive, quote unquote, women. My body is not magnetized towards. My body is very clearly not turned on by.
Yeah, and that's when a man will call up and say, I have erectile dysfunction, when it probably isn't the case.
Exactly. I think that this is happening far more than men are aware of. Their body is not attracted, whether we're talking about frequency or what. Yeah. It doesn't mesh with the other person. And the man has been so trained to be stimulated by his eyeballs. He's like, wow, I really like what I'm looking at here. This woman has such a nice ass and legs and oh, I love her boobs. And it's like, yeah, but your body's like, no, man, I don't want anything to do with this.
Right. Yeah. And I have had, I can't tell you how many men call me up with that problem. They consider a problem. Yeah, I'm with this hot woman and I can't get it up and I don't understand what's wrong. And I'm like, well, you're not into her. No, you don't understand. You should see her. She's like this. And I'm like, no, you're not into her. What are you talking about? Right. Well, you said this could be that you're not connected, emotionally connected. There's a lot of men who don't get it up if they're not emotionally connected and they think they're broken, and they're not broken.
And the other thing too is our bodies are so intelligent. Mm-hmm. They're so intelligent. And the truth is that quote unquote gorgeous woman that you're getting into the bed or wherever you are intimately, she might be completely turned off.
Yeah.
She might be in survival. She might be not into it herself, and the body might be sensing that. Like, this woman doesn't really want this. Maybe she's fawning. Survival mechanism to just please. Oh, I need to please this man, that like my life will be better or safer if I do. Maybe that's her program. Right. And maybe the body's picking up on it and it's like, oh no, she is not available for this. She does, so the body is off that way. But it's like, but oh, she's so hot and I'm here and we're naked or we're taking our clothes off. Why aren't you working, body? Why aren't you working? And it's like, no, that body knows something that you probably don't. Yeah.
So innate wisdom there, and what we're and how we're looking. So that's when I hear you talk about this, I'm reminded of, I had a group of men in Canada that I was teaching some beginning Tantra to, and we took it to the street, and I'm like, so you guys pick the hot women, and when I say the hot women, I want you to think about what that means, right? So here's like 8 men with me, and we're cruising the streets of Vancouver, Canada, and the guys are going, oh yeah, that one. And I'm just like, all right, let's take a moment here. What about her's hot? Oh, well, this and that and that. And I said, so I want you to know that woman right there doesn't actually like sex. And they're like, wait a minute, how did you know that? And I said, because you can see the disconnect between her hips and her pelvis and her head and everything else. And they're like, so I said, that woman looks hot is not that woman is hot. Mm. And even just the idea of like how what are you looking at? Mm-hmm. Yes, we're all cued into fertility cues. So so what are our prime directives? Procreation and survival, right? So yes, we all have sets of, and even like little finger ratio compared to nose and ear and stuff. There's some fascinating numbers that we're visually cued into. And here's the thing about that is that if we were in the wild, like we were living in a tribe, right? So we're out in the wild, there's no internet or whatever. Men are visually created to be attracted to a huge range of women because of the procreative ability for a man to father lots and lots, right? So men are actually like way wider in their visual field if you were not influenced by media and all these other things. Most men would find a lot of more women attractive than they do currently, whereas women are way more narrow because it's more about pheromones and chemistry. But yeah, so what are you looking at when you're looking? You're looking at what you've been trained to look at, not what you
and this is, and this has been something I've been looking at.
Nope, he broke up just a moment there so I will fill in while he comes back. There he is, back.
So, I was saying for myself, I've really been feeling into this because it's so I don't know. I'm just gonna say it's so obvious now for me to see a woman that is not attached, like not connected to her body. She's just been shaped by the masculine world that says what's hot and be that, and she's just playing the role. And watching my eyes, my mind, like, oh my God, she's so hot. But like knowing she's probably most likely so disconnected from her body. And that being my own journey, like what I really desire for myself in what I find attraction these days is, what I find like an attraction to is, can I feel it? Can I feel the attraction outside of my eyeballs? Can I feel a pull? Can I feel a magnetism? Can I feel, oh, I felt like my chest opened up and expanded, or maybe I actually feel something in my genitals that's not like from sight based, but like, oh wow, I'm really feeling aroused, and it's not because this just look or whatever.
Yeah. That is a very, I mean, it's funny because men get that, like the story before this where the man was like, oh my God, I'm so like, this is so weird. I have been that woman that has had a lot of that kind of weirdness happen, like men walking up to me and saying, wow, I'm not sure why, but you're just really hot. And it's like, oh, thanks. I mean, that's that's kind of like, oh, okay. I was sitting with a group of women at a Tantra retreat. We'd gone off the retreat. We were downtown having lunch. These women were smoking. They were absolutely 20 years younger than I am, absolutely smoking, right? I'm sitting there with a group of them. This super hot 20-year-old dude, 25-year-old dude walks up. He says, hey ladies. And of course, I just moved. I kind of like took a move back because I know who he's talking to. He's standing right beside me on the right-hand side. And I figure, yep, okay, who's he picking out here? And then I don't realize he's looking down at me. They're all of a sudden stopped looking at him and they're looking at me, which made me look up, and he's looking down at me, and he's like, he drops his phone number and he goes, I would really like to see you later today. And walks away, and they're all going, what? And so some people,
yes,
some men are pushing past that boundary of just what looks a certain way. Now, it could say that he liked older women. Right. We could say that was a visual appeal too, right? But thinking outside the box of what, and it comes into even what you should be attracted to, because sometimes men, like the one guy at the workshop, oh my God, he would have been embarrassed that his friends knew he was attracted to me.
Right.
What should you be attracted to is another story.
And that's, and I agree. And I love that, because we can look at it with both perspectives. We can look at it, oh, maybe he's attracted to older women. Or maybe this man is more connected to his body and he was just like, wow, I'm attracted to this woman. I'd love to think that that's the truth. And I know there's for sure men that are evolving in that way, that are in touch with something deeper than just their eyeballs and what they've been programmed to say is attractive.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you start on your exploration of that? How are you starting that exploration?
Yeah, this is a good one because I'm really passionate about this. And I think it's something that's so potent because as men, we can do this practice ourselves. And this really is about creating an intimate relationship with self that is not about the eyeballs. And so, step one is not watching porn or not looking at images of women as a practice of intimacy with self. Like seeing just what happens, like, oh, wow, okay, I can see that it's like hard for me to even be turned on unless I have some visual thing to look at. This is back to exploration. Like, oh, wow, I need my eyeballs to be engaged in this in order for my body to be turned on. And, my self-practice has become really about this because that's my exploration, is like, that's what I've come to find is, wow, my body really needs my eyeballs to be involved. Yeah. And this is a lead into other episodes I know that we got in the pipeline. So I'm trying not to like cross-pollinate too much, but there's a lot to be said about this and this practice. But so I kind of want to leave it simple for now.
Yeah. Well, so, when I start working with men on, men come through the portal of, oh, I want to be Tantra man, I want to be this amazing lover or whatever. And so then I start the exploration of, okay, so one of the things I want you to do is, and women as well, in the form of masturbation, stop looking at porn and don't fantasize. I want you to check into how you're feeling. And so many, both men and women, will say to me, but I don't feel anything then. And it's like, okay, all right. So what you're telling me is the only thing that whenever you're aroused or get horny is maybe it's first thing in the morning, but most of the time you're only getting aroused by visual cues.
Right.
And I said, I see that as problematic, that your turn on is an external situation and not an internal situation.
Right.
And then somebody will say, well, yeah, but biologically we're programmed that way. Yeah, sure, 100%. And once again, if that doesn't appeal to you, you just want to ride this visual ray of them, go ride it. Ride it. Nobody's stopping you from that. Yeah. But if you want to wonder what it's like to live in a turned on, like what's the benefit of this? The fact that your turn on is yours, and it's not really related to what you're seeing. It's related to the fact that you're living in an arousal that makes you potent and makes you keen and attractive to just about everybody else.
Yes.
So here's the difference. Oh, you turn me on versus I'm turned on.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love the idea of the exploration is, can you be turned on if you're not aided visually?
Right.
And if you can't, you're outsourcing all your most potent energy.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's that simple step in itself, I know is massive. And that's just knowing the numbers around pornography, like how much of it's consumed, how much of it's watched, and then the connection to, ever growing erectile dysfunction labels and all these different things. Like all the data is there to point at this problem.
Right. Yeah. And you're saying it like then men are coming and saying, I have erectile dysfunction. I have premature ejaculation. I have this, I have that. And really what they have is a porn problem or a visual stimulus problem. That's really what they have. And a disconnect from what their body really might want.
Yes.
Like when men come to me and say, why there's something wrong with me. And it's like, if I'm not connected to the woman, I just don't. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you, that your body or heart or emotions want safety and a connection. And though the visual is there, the body's saying, no, go. That's actually wisdom. That's not a problem. That's wisdom. So
I so resonate with that story. I was that man. I was that man that was like, something's wrong with me. I have to be emotionally connected. I have to be engaged. I have to like this person. I totally had that. There was even times where, there were times where I was going to sex stores and getting a pill to help me get an erection. And it was that was self-inflicted trauma for sure, based upon this idea of what I should be as a man. And I think it's one of the most devastating things between the feminine and masculine relationship is that the man getting programmed with these ideas of just being a machine and sleeping with a bunch of women and those are the coolest, most attractive. And there's an energetic pull there. It's there's an energetic pull there to desire that. And I know that's so true in my own experience, but now coming to this other side in this new chapter, it's oh, my body just was smart. My body knew what was going on. And I just needed to listen and trust it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then, of course, that embarrassment, how do you explain that to somebody that you just pursued, that you have in bed, and now you're and actually that happens to women, and women never talk about that either, where, they've felt this visual connection to this guy, he's super hot, and then they make out with him and they're like, yeah, this is super not. And they just go do it anyway. Right. Because, one, as women, we always have that obligation. If we turned somebody on, then clearly we must do something about it, which is the most ridiculous thing on the planet, I'm saying.
Yeah.
But so true. So I guess what we're saying, men, in a nutshell here is, yes, all humans are visual because our brain is sitting on outside of us, with the exception of people who are not visual because they
Yes.
cannot see. They
Yes.
do not have that, right? In which case they've developed other sensory experiences that's important to them. Then, so we can just say, and you even said in the beginning, oh, I'm a very visual person. We can just say like, we are visually driven 100%. And if we only are visually driven, then we're cutting ourselves off from a lot of other experiences. And in that way, like experiences of true connection, experiences of going outside our norm in our typical body or visual format, what juice are we missing? You know, so that's exploration, right? That's like saying, I don't like the shape of Brussels sprouts, so I'm never going to eat one.
And I love the connection to Tantra is because what we're talking about is waking up the other senses and giving them more room at the table.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, that's Tantra to me, is like awakening the senses beyond just the mind and a big part of that being eyes, but it's like noises and smells and tastes and the like even the body like feeling and
how it feels, yeah, and how it feels to squish in, or how it feels that something's hard, or how it feels that all this. I'm a texture freak, so for me, that's all important. I actually do a thing, I haven't done it for a while, but I invented Tantra speed dating. And how I did that is I had a big curtain. So I had these two entrances, and the men would come through one and the women would come through the other.
Wow.
And they would sit, chairs were seated facing the curtain.
Ooh.
And so everybody, the men would sit on one side and the women would sit on other. All you could see were people's feet.
Wow.
And I would take people through these exercises where they would put their ear up against the sheet and the person would whisper in their ear on the other side, right? And so I'd rotate the people around, but they'd go through all of these, like, give me your hand. So somebody's touching your hand under the sheet, whatever. So all of these sensory exercises had zero to do with seeing somebody. There were, the women were giggling. You could see the men react because I could see down both sides. Men reacting to women's giggles because the women are nervous and whatever. So all that auditory stuff and the wonder. And so this went on we do this for at least 45 minutes. So everybody had a taste of everybody as I rotated the women through the circle. And then we pulled the curtain. Then it's like, oh, everybody get up and mingle. And so people were looking down at everybody's shoes to remember who was what, because it was on a shoe base. And so it was awesome because out of that experience, I think there were 20 people there, 5 people coupled up and actually ended up coming to a Tantra's couple event that I did several weeks after that. Some of them are still together.
Wow.
And they all said somebody that I normally would not have looked at.
Whoa.
But what they did is they created intimacy, they had other stimulus, and they created this excitement that was not just through their eyes, but so I thought that was really crazy cool. So I love that. And I would love to do more of those, but that was, so that's what we're saying. There's a lot more than just your eyes.
Yeah, it's and for me it's such a fun exploration. It's just like it's expansion. It's expansion. I've used my eyes as the main form of attraction my whole life. I'm such a more complex being than just my eyes.
Yeah.
Like I want to get all the other things involved, and that's going to lead me in other directions.
Well, that would be saying yes in the same way as the last episode. That would say explore. So what does happen if you date somebody out of your visual norm or compass or whatever guidance system? What does happen when you open to that connection that way? It's only an exploration. And so right. I think that's what we're asking you to do, right? Mm-hmm. Explore. So what are we asking them to do? What's a simple step they can take?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to kind of what I said earlier, is like get in touch with your, with your, how you're masturbating, how you're self-pleasuring, and if it's always something that has to turn your eyeballs and mind on. And just take note of that. Be like, oh, wow. Yeah. It's like almost every time I have to look at something that my mind finds sexy or attractive. That's just good information to have. And we've got a few more episodes here, so we're going to go deeper in, but that's my request for this one.
Awesome. And I'm going to say, when you are looking around, I would like you to look around at it. If you're heterosexual, all women, even I would just say look around at all people. So let's just start there. I want you to look around at all people. So if you're using your eyes, that's great, but don't let your eyes just focus on what you are used to. I want you to open your eyes to all people. What can you find attractive about anybody? And maybe it's not just your eyes. Like if you're looking at somebody that you normally wouldn't look at, the rest of your body is going to start cueing in because you've just given your eyes a dissonance, right? So it's like, oh, I'm looking at somebody I normally wouldn't look at. Check in. What's happening in the rest of your body, right? And that's the thing. And of course, always the sooner you can stop using visual aids when you self-pleasure, the sooner you can start actually getting to know what your own arousal is like. Because while you've tagged your arousal to one specific look, you've trained your body to be turned off by everything else, even though it probably isn't. Right. So yes, that's our key for the day. Okay, so go out there, visual people, and start using your other senses.
Yeah.
and we'll see you next time. Da, 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 da.